Welcome to Money and Purpose, a podcast about intentional wealth and aligning your money with what is most important to you. I'm your host, Marianne Poon, CFA charter holder and financial advisor. Joining me today is Jan Brito, a realtor with Compass Real Estate in the Maryland, D.C. area and the founder of Capital Senior Solutions. Jen is a senior real estate specialist and a certified senior downsizing coach. Today, we are talking about what makes a late in life move different, strategies that can save on taxes and increase sale prices, and why Jan sometimes signs listing agreements 2 years in advance. Hi, Jan. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's great to have you on the show.
Good morning. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about your practice and what you do and how that operates?
Sure. So I run a team at Compass called Brito Associates of Compass, and I have a division called Capital Senior Solutions that I established in 2020. I went through this training with the Seniors Real Estate Institute, and it was a very intense, high-level training. The PhD who teaches the course equates it to a graduate level course. And for realtors, that says a lot because usually we take a 1 or 2 day class and we're called an expert. Well, this took me a year to get through, and that made all the difference. It's completely changed my business model and the way I work. It's been a good thing.
A move later in life is very different from a regular real estate transaction. Can you tell us more about your process and how you work with people?
Yeah, it is very different. I mean, often I'm dealing with people who have lived in their homes, some for up to 60 years. And you can imagine all the stuff that gets accumulated over that time period, not only the family's own stuff, but as other family members perhaps pass and then they inherit things, or a child leaves home and doesn't take their stuff, they end up with like more than they can even imagine getting rid of or even tackling. And that often stops them in their tracks. In addition to the stuff, which is a major stumbling block, there's the family dynamics that you're dealing with. If there's been a death in the family, sometimes the siblings are shared trustees or have equal say in what happens. And so you've got to deal with the family dynamics there. Sometimes there's illnesses you're dealing with, and those could be physical or cognitive. So you have to be very aware of these issues and have a lot of patience and empathy to deal with folks going through this type of move, because it's just totally overwhelming for the majority of them. Even the most intelligent professional people have trouble with this because it's so emotional.
You said you only help people sell their houses and helping with that transition into downsizing or moving to assisted living.
Well, I work with buyers too, but as my business has
Right.
evolved over the years, I've become more of a listing agent. Most of my older adults, when they downsize, do go into senior communities, which is not a sale for me, but I'm perfectly happy to help them through that process. I even help people tour communities and help them ask questions and negotiate. But some of them also downsize to a smaller home. So I do work with buyers as well, but the majority of my business is listings. In the last 5 or 6 years, that's how it's developed. Yeah.
I help a lot of adult children with their aging parents. What are things that people often underestimate?
The amount of time and effort it takes when you're dealing with deceased parents you have to deal with all the contents of the home, the sale of the home, setting up an estate account, getting an estate attorney, dealing with a financial advisor, hopefully, to guide them through the process. It's just a lot to take on. And I often work with absentee heirs that might be out of state or even out of the country. But as long as I have the key to the house, I come in very early in the process and project manage all the way through. So they don't even have to be physically present. As long as I have a signed listing agreement and the keys to the house, I make things happen in an orderly fashion that makes sense for them. And what I'm trying to do is take away that overwhelm.
You also work with personal representatives and trustees selling property after someone has passed. What does that process look like from your end, and what makes it go smoothly?
If there's a letter of administration to be had, that's one of the first things I ask for from the PR. They typically, on the advice of their estate attorney, have multiple copies of the death certificate, but I want to make sure that they have that and that there's one set aside for the closing process. And then if it's a trust, I ask, who is the trustee? Where are the trust documents? Some people don't know where their trust documents are, and we need a portion of the trust to close. So those
Right.
are things that they have to be thinking about. And like I said, that's when I refer them back to their own estate attorney or financial advisor. Or if they don't have one, I connect them with someone who can help them. Often you will want to have an appraisal of the contents of the home before you remove anything or have a sale.
Mhm.
so that everything is accounted for. Don't just take things out of the house and start giving it to relatives until the estate appraisal is done, personal
Yeah.
property appraisal.
I've seen things that
Yes.
have gotten passed down and later they were worth millions, and then you have to go back and report them and then pay taxes on them. That can be
Oh,
a really big miss. So,
yeah.
yes, very
Yeah.
important to appraise all the contents in the house first. How do you usually work with financial advisors? I think that people underestimate the tax consequences to selling a house and the things that you can do to mitigate them. So, for example, making sure you keep track of all the improvements that you've done over the years, which can be really difficult if you've been living in the same house for 50 years, so that you could get a step up in basis. Are there other considerations that you find are helpful when you're coordinating with a financial advisor and the families?
One of the things I ask at our first meeting is if they have a financial advisor and have they consulted them on this move, because that's a critical piece of this. I don't think
Mhm.
they should be making any decisions without consulting their financial advisor. Another, you mentioned the tax implications. A fine example is my home state of Maryland. If you change your state of residence from Maryland before you sell your home, you could be subject to an 8.75% Maryland non resident withholding tax on your proceeds. And that
Right.
hurts. So if they're moving out of state, I have that conversation and I say, talk to your tax advisor about the perfect time to change your address. Don't just willy nilly do it the minute you move to Florida. Wait and get some advice on that. And then what you mentioned about keeping receipts for any improvements, that's critical too, because that can offset some of the capital gains. And many of these folks, because they've lived in their homes so long and no longer have a mortgage, they have a lot of equity. And of course, capital
Mhm.
gains is going to eat into that. So anything you can do to offset that is perfect. And financial advisors can certainly help with all that advice.
There's a lot of modeling out the costs of sales and the cost
Yes.
of moving,
Mhm.
and there are very efficient ways to do that. The other thing is, what prompts people to sell their home or to consider downsizing? And do you have advice for that conversation or transition so that it's a little less stressful?
Most of the folks that I work with are planners. In other words, I don't deal with very many crisis type moves. So these are folks who plan
Mhm.
ahead and they start thinking, my knees have started to bother me and I really don't want to deal with these steps anymore. Or my back is killing me. I can't shovel snow and clean the gutters and do all the house maintenance. Maybe we should think about taking on something that's more maintenance free. Or it could be a health issue, a mobility issue, a cognitive issue. And that's what starts the conversation usually. Sometimes it's driven by the adult children. The adult children may
Mhm.
recognize the need before the parents do.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons I also got certified as a senior downsizing coach, because it is so emotional. I can't tell you the number of times I get a call from an adult child wanting me to come over and meet with mom and dad. Mom and dad aren't ready to move. So my realtor hat comes off and my coach hat comes on, and we just talk and get to know each other. And I try to make them feel comfortable enough with me that they can share what they're feeling, what they want, and it tends to progress a lot better by using that empathetic approach.
I've seen some of your seminars where you bring in all the professionals, where they talk about different components like estate planning attorneys, financial advisors, yourselves. What is the importance of that, and how much more effective is that?
Well, one of my most popular seminars is The Truth About Getting Your Affairs in Order. And that's where I moderate a panel with a financial advisor and a estate attorney. It's critical to include these types of professionals in a late in life move like this, because it is not a typical move and there's so many pieces and parts. And you have to realize these people are planning for the remaining third of their life, and it's a big deal. And to do it thoughtfully and understand that they have enough assets to provide themselves for however long they have left is critical. And they've
Right.
they've worked hard all their life. They've saved for this moment, so it's a big deal, and I want it to be a happy, stressless occasion. You know what I mean?
Yes, for sure. I think people underestimate the advantages of having a team approach of all these professionals. It can make the process really stressful or less stressful so that you can go on to the next phase feeling better about the move.
Right, and I think it's, if people are thinking, "Oh, well, that's a lot of money to have all those professionals involved." Well, you've got a lot of equity in your home, and like I said, this is the moment you've waited your life for, to retire and relax and, live like you're on vacation every day. So, uh, your results will probably be much better by using the appropriate professionals to guide you.
For sure. I've heard some nightmare stories of people just doing these online listings where they don't even talk to the real estate agent or realtor, and they just go online, the key unlock, like the box unlocks, and then they go and tour the house and that's it. So,
There's also these outfits that prey on older home sellers in distressed situations. You've
mm,
probably seen the ads on TV and heard them on the radio. We'll give you cash, no questions asked, closing in 7 days. Well, they
right,
won't give you the value of your home. They'll give you
right.
what they want to offer. And,
Mhm.
and, it sounds good, but then when they get there to see your house, that price drops because maybe the condition is not so great. And with just a little refresh, you could probably make out a lot better by listing it with a realtor who understands what's needed to get the proper return on investment rather than
Right.
just giving it up for peanuts to one of these companies that offers cash and quick closes.
I guess you've been in the market for such a long time in the DMV area that you understand what goes into it to make that ROI higher and increase the sale. Can you tell us a little bit about the things that go into that?
When we list a home, we decide with the sellers if it's a situation where it's best sold as is without making any improvements, or if
Mhm.
it's just going to take a little fresh paint and some staging. For instance, for my listings, I cover the cost of staging, including furniture rental, because I feel presentation is everything and it makes a huge difference. We do a deep clean, we do window washing, we do floor plans, professional photos. And even if it's just a fresh coat of paint, even if the kitchens and the bathrooms are dated, we paint it, we stage it, we take beautiful photos, and it looks like it walked out of a magazine, even if it's an older home that needs a lot of updates. So the
Right.
sale price is reflected in those efforts. And you may not have to put that much into it to get that kind of result.
Have you ever had it where people do renovations in order to get the step up in basis as at the same time as trying to maximize your sale price?
Yeah, I have an example right now. Actually, the house is going on the market this weekend. It's a young man who lost his mother, and the house had a lot of deferred maintenance, and it was a
Mhm.
hoarding situation, so there was a huge clean out we had to do. But we spent only, what was it, $30,000, which got us paint, a brand new kitchen. I mean, gut renovation of the kitchen. One of the bathrooms had been gutted by a previous contractor and never touched. We completely finished that, refinished the wood floors, and we spent a new HVAC system, and I think we spent around $30,000. If we had not done that, we would have been lucky to get something with a 4 in front of it as an as-is sale. With
Right.
the improvements we've made, we're listing it at 600,000, and we've had it in
Right.
coming soon, and we're already getting a lot of interest. So that's the difference.
Wow, you really are white glove service. You're recommending the renovations,
Yeah,
and do you have contractors that you have
I do.
relationships with?
Absolutely, and that's critical too. I have my favorite contractors sometimes will allow the client to pay the balance on the renovations out of their proceeds at closing if it's
Uh-huh.
a tight
Wow.
situation, which is really nice. That's what he's doing with this particular listing, which is
Uh-huh.
a really nice thing to do. Young man
Right.
just starting out, recently married, just had a baby, and overwhelmed by his mom's passing and dealing with all this stuff. And he's in New York, and the house is Maryland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
That's
I texted him
incredible.
a short video this morning of the kitchen only, not the whole house, but just the kitchen. And he said,
Right.
"Wow, that's beautiful. I just wish my mom could see it." You know?
Aw,
Yeah.
that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're ready to sell your house, and the last thing you want to do is coordinate making it look good and trying to spiffy it up.
Yeah, for the average person, that is so overwhelming, but it's what we do every day. So it's our process. Just go through the steps and make it happen.
How about people who have a ton of stuff? How do you help them?
Well, sometimes they want to go through it. Sometimes they just say everything must go. If they feel there's anything of value, we coordinate with an estate sale company to come in
Mhm.
and stage the home for an estate sale and try to get them some extra money. If the estate sale person comes in and says, I'm sorry, there's nothing here of value, then we have a junk hauler who comes and removes everything from the home. He will donate
Mhm.
what can be donated and offer receipts. And what can't be donated, he'll take it to the dump.
I love that there's somebody who knows what can be donated, where to donate it.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Oh, there's so many resources out there. And there's so many people in need. Wider Circle, which is based in Silver Spring, Maryland, is one of my favorite charities, I think. And they'll even take mattresses and furniture, clothing for job interviews. So we are constantly filling their warehouse from our listings.
That's great. And
Yeah.
it's good to know that your stuff is being used. It makes the decluttering easier.
Yeah, and even if they don't get money for it, people feel better knowing someone is using their things rather than it just being dumped. I had one listing where it was a single woman with no children, and she had designated that the sale of her home and all the contents were to go to charity.
Mhm.
And so I found a builder who bought the house, who was gonna tear it down and rebuild it, but he, donated all of the components of the kitchen, cabinets, counters, appliances, flooring, to an outfit that builds homes for people in need. So it was just a real feel-good transaction because this was the
Amazing.
deceased owner's wishes, and we not only sold it, but we took it a little bit further and we're able to give things to people that can use it. I found a bunch of, horse riding stuff, and the move manager didn't know what to do with it, so I found a horse rescue in Poolesville, Maryland, who was happy to take it all, and I drove it out there and got a receipt, and, somebody's gonna use it and feel good about it.
You have a lot of resources for, your clients and prospective clients. Can you tell us more about the things you have curated and developed over the years?
Well, I've, always provided a lot of education, and in the way of seminars. I used to do a whole lot more than I do now, but it got to the point where I was doing so many seminars, it was interrupting my real estate business. So now I do several a year. So there's always a schedule on my website, capitalseniorsolutions.com, under the seminars page. There's also recordings of past seminars there that people can see. And then I, for the last almost 3 years now, have led a free monthly downsizers club. It's held on the first Friday of every month at 11 a.m. And it's on Zoom now for a couple of years because we started out going in person. And then when there were weather issues, we switched to Zoom. And then we polled everybody and said, would you rather stay on Zoom or do you want to be on person? And here's the thing, this started out with the intent to be a small support group of maybe 6 to 8 people. I now have 18 to 20 people on my call every month. And
Wow.
they're not only from the DMV, I have people from other states who have, kids here who are going to relocate here and they have joined. So we share resources, successes, challenges. I assign homework every month. I have a little homework wheel I put in the like Wheel of Fortune. I put in the chat and they click it and it spins and whatever it lands on is what they work on for the next month. Like kitchen utensils or wrapping paper. It just keeps them motivated. And then the following month we report back on what they accomplish and they get a new assignment. And then, we just share information as a group. Amongst each other, and it's very supportive. I've had a lot of graduates. These are folks who have successfully sold their home and moved on. So that's fun. And we've talked about having a reunion of our graduates this summer. So I think I'm going to put something together for that.
Oh, that's so
And
exciting.
uh, you can register each month for that on the seminars page at capitalseniorsolutions.com. There's a new Zoom link for each month, but everyone is welcome. And we have a lot of fun and support each other.
Oh, wow. And how much does it cost to join?
0. My
Oh,
hope
wow.
in doing this, I do it because I enjoy it. It feeds my soul. My hope
Right.
is, of course, that they will ultimately list their home with me. But if they
Right.
don't, I've put some good out there into the world.
That's amazing.
So,
Maybe I need to join and declutter a little.
yes, all ages are welcome.
Amazing. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you think would be good to share?
I think folks in thinking about a late in life move should not hesitate to contact a realtor early in the process. You might want to interview a few to make sure you're comfortable with the one you choose. But as I mentioned previously, I don't know if I mentioned it or not. I sometimes sign listing agreements 2 years in advance because that's how
Oh,
much
wow.
planning is involved. And I don't get paid till the house sells, but that's okay. I'm not just interested in a quick commission check. I'm interested in helping someone through a transition, and it brings me great gratification. You can't put a price on that, right? So get a realtor early. Go ahead and sign the listing agreement. If you change your mind, you can cancel it at any time. It's not like you're totally locked in, but that's the person who can guide you to the resources that you need. and give you advice along the way, and then also help you decide if you want to sell as is or make any improvements. Or in the case I described with the young man, perhaps it's worth doing a complete renovation to make a difference for what he and his family will enjoy from the proceeds.
Sooner you plan, the sooner you can coordinate with all the professionals as well and do the process thoughtfully.
In the scheme of things, and I've heard my clients say this, that the house is part of the process, but it's just one part, you know? Getting to know more about them, their family, their future needs is all a part of doing what's best for them. So the house is
Right.
just a piece of it. There's so much more.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for being on the show. This has been lovely.
Thank you for having me.